Hello class, today we are looking at adding or subtracting rational expressions. Your essential question, how do I add or subtract rational expressions? The learning intention, today I am learning to add and subtract rational expressions. So we've got a warm-up that you should be able to do. Please pause the video and complete the warm-up now. We are simplifying our rational expressions. I do hope you tried. So as I am looking at the top, the factors of negative 30 that add up to negative 7, I know that one's going to be positive and one's going to be negative. Factors of 30 that when I subtract them, I get 7. Well, 1 and 30, nope. 2 and 15, nope. 3 and 10, 3 times 10 is 30, 10 minus 3 is 7. I want the 7 to be negative, so the 10 must be negative and the 3 must be positive. Those are the factors of v squared minus 7v minus 30. Okay, for the denominator, factors of 24, that when I subtract them, I get 5. And it's got to be a negative 5. One will be positive, one will be negative. Factors of 24 that differ by 5. 1 times 24 does not differ by 5. 2 times 12 does not differ by 5. 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. 8 minus 3 is 5. I want the 5 to be negative. The bigger number has to be negative. So it's 8 and 3. So as I simplify, I've got a factor. The common factor is v plus 3, which is in my numerator and in my denominator. So after I simplify, I get v minus 10 over v minus 8. Okay, we did not talk about our constraints. Our constraints would be v cannot be equal to negative 3 or positive 8 because I cannot divide by 0. Okay, so let's go back to a younger time when we were learning about fractions. The question is, how do I add or subtract fractions? Well, what do you have to be able to? You have to have the common denominator. If we don't have a common denominator, we can't add or subtract. So I'm looking at 8 and at 4. So I'm looking at my least common multiple of 8 and 4. This can actually be done with your calculator. I'm going to show you how to do it, just simply so you know. So I go into my math button. I scroll over to numbers. I go down to number 8. I type in 8, comma 4, close it off. My comma is right here. Hit enter and I get 8. So both of them will go into 8 evenly, and 8 is the smallest number. They will go into evenly. I don't need to change the 5/8 because it's already an 8. But I do have to change the 3/4. Okay, I'm looking at this. What do I multiply 4 by to get 8? I multiply it by 2. I've got to do the same thing to my numerator. Multiplying it by 2, I get 6/8. If you notice, what we really are multiplying by is a form of 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is plus 6 over 8 equals 5 plus 6 is 11 over 8 And we're done. Okay, so the next one, we've got a 6 and then we've got a 9. Still got to find that least common multiple. This time I do not have a calculator. Well, I look at my bigger number, 9. 6 does not divide into 9 evenly, so I will go to the next number that is a multiple of 9. 9 plus 9 is 18. Will 6 divide evenly into 18? Yes. So I know that I've got to convert both of those to something over 18. Okay, what number do I multiply 6 by to get 18? Well, 18 divided by 6 is 3. What I do to the denominator, I must do to the numerator. 5 times 3 is 15. So this is equal to 15 over 18 minus, okay, I've got 4 over 9. Okay, 9 times what gives me 18? That will be 2. Got to do it to the numerator also. So this is 8 over 18. 15 over 18 minus 8 over 18. 15 minus 8 is 7 over 18, and we're done. So if you're still struggling on how to add and subtract fractions, go back through the video, maybe do some practice in Excel. Get better at that. Okay, the same thing we're going to have happens with our rational expressions. The denominators have to be the same to be able to add or subtract. If they are the same, no biggie, you just add or subtract the numbers on top. So as I'm looking at this, 8v is going to be on the bottom. U minus v plus 6u minus 3v. Okay, let's put it together. 1u plus 6u. 7u. Negative v minus 3v minus 4v. Negative 1v plus negative 3v is negative 4v. The numerator stays the same. And we're done. If we're talking about constraints, we know that x cannot be equal to 0 because I can't multiply by 0 or divide by 0. I cannot divide by 0. Okay, the same thing happens when we subtract. We have to have that common denominator. I've got a common denominator. But to be able to subtract, just like what we did before, to be able to add the opposite, I want to add the opposite. This becomes plus, this becomes minus, this becomes minus. I've still got the same denominator. Okay, so the 4m to the third is not going to change. Okay, now looking at this, it will be minus 2m to the third n minus 3n. Okay, as we simplify, 4m to the third n minus 2m to the third n. 4 minus 2 is 2m to the third n minus 3n. All of that is over 6m to the third n. I know that x cannot be equal, that m cannot be equal to 0, and n cannot be equal to 0. because I cannot divide by 0. Okay, on the next one, we're going to look again. The easiest way to get that common denominator is to take your numerator and multiply top and bottom by the numerator here, the denominator here. Come over here and do the same with your other denominator. Okay, so let's break it into our two parts. Six times n over n minus 1 times n plus 7 times n, 7n, minus 7 times 1 is 7 over n times n minus 1. Okay, I've got the same denominator. 6n plus 7n minus 7 over n times n minus 1. 6 plus 7 is 13. 13n minus 7 over n times n minus 1. If you notice, we don't worry about simplifying the bottom. It's fine. But what we do know is that n cannot be equal to 0 or 1, because those are the two numbers that will put a 0 in my denominator. They will not work. Okay, pause the video. Remember, this time we're going to be subtracting, so it takes a little bit longer. Pause the video and see if you can set it up. What two ones are we going to multiply by here? Pause the video and see if you can set it up now, please. I do hope you tried. Here's my other denominator. 2x plus 3 on the bottom and 2x plus 3 on the top. Here's my other denominator. 5x minus 4 on my numerator, 5x minus 4 on my denominator. Now, I've got the same denominators. Let's see what the numerator looks like. Two x times 2x plus 3 minus 6x times 5x minus 4. All of it over 5x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. Is that what you got to start with? Let's do our distributing. Two x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. I have distributed that first term. Negative 6 times 5x is negative 30x squared. Negative 6x times negative 4. Negative times negative is a positive. 6 times 4 is 24, followed by your x. The numerator does not change. The denominator does not change. 5x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. Simplify. 4x squared minus 30x squared. Negative 26x squared. 6x plus 24x is 30x. All of it over 5x minus 4 times 2x plus 2 plus 3. Okay, what are our constraints? X cannot be equal to. Okay, here I add 4 and divide by 5, so that would be 4/5. Here I subtract 3 and divide by 2. -3/2. And this is how you add or subtract rationals. Find the common denominator. To be able to add or subtract rational expressions. And how do you know when you're successful? You know when you are successful when you can add or subtract any rational expression.